Do boycotts really hurt big brands? You've seen the headlines, the protest signs, the empty stores. Maybe you even walked past a Starbucks and thought, not today. For the past year, millions have been doing just that. What started as a protest has turned into a massive consumer movement. Can we, the consumers, actually hurt a multi-billion-dollar corporation? Or is our outrage just a fleeting moment? The answer is more complicated than you think. Stick with me. We'll explore the surprising history of boycotts, from India's independence to America's civil rights. We'll reveal how brands respond to boycotts and which tactic works best. And at the end, we'll uncover the one group that profits when big brands stumble. You'll never look at your shopping cart the same way again. Let's start with the brands you know. Take McDonald's. In the Middle East, sales plummeted, forcing local franchise owners to issue warnings. The Golden Arches carried the blame, even though the owners were local families. Starbucks faced similar issues with cafes going silent as protests grew. And in Pakistan, local sodas surged as people turned away from Pepsi and Coke. So what is a boycott? It's not just a complaint, it's a mass refusal to buy. But where did this powerful tactic come from? And what does history tell us about its true power? Boycotts aren't new. In fact, the very word comes from a single person, Captain Charles Boycott. In 1880s Ireland, this ruthless land agent refused to lower rents for poor farmers. The community responded by cutting him off entirely. No one would work for him, no one would serve him. This non-violent pressure was so effective that he was forced to flee the country. From that first stand, the tactic spread, fueling revolutions in India and challenging segregation in the United States. This is what culture can do when it organizes. Money follows, and sometimes history changes. From Ireland to the United States, boycotts had already shown their power, but nowhere did this tactic take deeper root than in India. There, cloth wasn't just fabric, it was identity, and refusing British textiles turned everyday clothing into a weapon of resistance. Have you ever had to give up something you liked even though it made life harder? Maybe you stopped eating your favorite snack to save money, or maybe you refused to join a game because it wasn't fair. Now imagine doing that not just for yourself but for your whole country. Why would people stop buying something they were used to, even if it made life harder? Let me tell you a story from history that answers this question. In the 1880s, India was full of weavers and artisans. Families had spun and woven cloth for centuries. Their fabric was beautiful, colorful, and part of daily life. But when the British took control of India's trade, everything changed. They brought in cloth from factories in Lancaster, England. It was cheap, smooth, and easy to buy. Shopkeepers quickly filled their shelves with British cloth. Here's what that meant. Indian weavers lost their work. Their looms grew silent. Families who had lived with pride now faced hunger and poverty. Some Indian leaders began to ask, why do we keep buying the very goods that are destroying our people? In 1885, when the Indian National Congress first met, leaders like Dadabhai Naoroji and Surendranath Banerjee stood up and said, if we stop buying British cloth and choose Indian cloth, we can protect our workers. Every piece of clothing can become a protest, but not everyone agreed. People said the British cloth is softer and cheaper, why should we suffer? And here's the turning point. The leaders told them, this is not about comfort, it is about dignity. Every shirt, every sari could carry a message. We will not depend on the empire forever. At first, only a few listened, but as the years passed, the idea spread. By 1905, when the British partitioned Bengal, the anger boiled over. The Swadeshi movement began. People burned British cloth in bonfires, markets proudly sold Indian fabric. Children learned new songs about freedom, but the British mocked them. They said India could never survive without Lancaster mills. That's when the boycott became not just about cloth, but about power. Ordinary people were fighting back without weapons, just with their choices. Years later, in the 1920s and 1930s, Gandhi gave this movement new strength. He spun his own cloth on a small wheel called the charkha. He wore simple khadi instead of foreign cloth. People laughed at him. They asked, how can spinning a wheel defeat an empire? But Gandhi showed them this was bigger than fabric. It was about freedom. By refusing British goods, Indians were breaking their chains, thread by thread. And just as cloth once carried a nation's defiance, today in the Middle East it is coffee cups, burgers, and sodas that carry that same spirit of resistance. What began as boycotts against foreign cloth more than a century ago now echoes in restaurants, cafes, and supermarkets across the region. Let's see how this story is unfolding today. Do you know why many people in the Middle East now feel it's wrong to buy from McDonald's, KFC, Burger King, Pepsi, Coca-Cola, and Starbucks? For decades, these brands shaped daily life here. McDonald's alone runs nearly 2,000 stores across the region. Pepsi and Coca-Cola dominate over 90% of the soft drink market, with millions of bottles sold each year. Starbucks operates almost 2,000 outlets, serving millions every day. These names were routines: weekend meals, family dinners, coffee runs at just the right spot. But today, the feeling has flipped. Something powerful changed. You might wonder why. What does a burger or soda have to do with war? How can people shift so fast after decades of habit? Because 2 years ago, Gaza came into view not just as news, but as pain. In every home, many felt a deep truth. Those US brands pay taxes, taxes help fund war. And every bite felt like a bullet into the hearts of Palestinian children. So boycotts erupted. Social media lit up. People learned who owned which brand. The reminders came fast. Did you know this brand sends profits straight to America? The consumer who once didn't care now knew and chose not to buy. Since then, sales dropped sharply, stores closed. The giants looked shaken. But this sacrifice came with another challenge. People still wanted burgers, coffee, cola, just without guilt. That's when local players stepped in. Al-Baik, Saudi Arabia's beloved chicken chain, had over 150 locations by 2024 and expanded into the UAE, Kuwait, and beyond. Brands like Spiros Bathis, Alcoze Cola, and homegrown burger and fried chicken chains soared. Regional drinks and local cafes filled the gap. This was never the plan. The boycott aimed to pressure American giants, in turn hoping to sway government policies. But the real twist, local economies became the unexpected winners. New jobs, stronger regional supply chains, money staying inside the community. So why would people stop buying something they were used to even when it made life harder? Because sometimes it's not only about taste or comfort. It's about courage, it's about identity. It's about turning every bite and every sip into a message of resistance. And the war still rages. The boycotts have not ended the conflict, but they've revealed something lasting, something hopeful. Even amid struggle, new winners emerge. Local pride, local strength, and a promise that resilience can outlast fear. That is the story of the empty tables, the story of burgers, coffee, and sodas turned into symbols of protest and of hope. From the looms of India to the coffee shops of today's Middle East, boycotts have carried the same truth across centuries. Consumption is never just consumption. Every purchase is a choice and sometimes a protest. It can wound an empire, shake global giants, or breathe life into local pride. In the end, the story of boycotts is not about what we lose, but about what we stand for.